one would say we are slowly moving away from the main rain season we have, which is the March to May. And it is therefore a very bright, sunny morning here at Broadcast House on Nile Avenue. And I don't know what it is where you are, but one thing is, yes, those have been craving for a bit of sunshine away from the rainfall. It seems we are slowly going and getting to that. I'm Robert Chirabonyonyi, and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, we all know that Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, has two main rain seasons, March to May, then of course we have the August to December. And many times we see extreme weather conditions, among which has been human activity that has caused a lot of these extreme weather challenges. Now, recently, His Excellency came up with directives on the environment. And I'll be reading one or two of these. And he said, if we put this in action, then we may be able to reduce the impact or magnitude of these extreme weather conditions. And these included, the presidential directives on environment included that there should be no building or garden 50 meters from river banks, 200 meters from the lake shores, no building on hills with a gradient greater than 30 degrees. He went further to say forests hold the soil and prevent landslides. The roots of the trees hold the soil. The forests near the river banks and lake shores filter the water going into the rivers or lakes so that they do not silt. It is therefore wrong to interfere with the delicate work of God and nature. Joining me is my colleague Felix Nkunda. Felix, we know population is growing. Uganda, our land cover doesn't expand, but our population is growing. Over a time, we are seeing this conflict of nature, Moso wetlands. Over the weekend, we saw NEMA in Buroba arresting people. Someone goes to a wetland, brings maram, covers the wetland and selling plots. How can we coexist amid this population influx and need for land?
Consistently, we have struggled with the challenge of a clash between the increasing humankind and definitely nature in its own sense. Robert, what we see most recent today and some of the calamities we cry coming to us is because of some of these things. The president is quite on point to call out these directives, and very timely, because it has been quite a long time coming. Most of the causes of some of these atrocities that happen because of extreme weather events, we are partly contributors, and this it is a given. And this also goes into the clear notion of a wording called encroachment. When you look at the role of the institutions, actually the present institutions, one of them on the spotlight is NEMA, the National Environmental Management Authority, something of that kind. Its mandate is to make sure, you see, is to make sure that people don't abuse some of these directly related to environment holdings like swamps and other these things. Now, that being said, they struggle with something called knowledge. And even when you look at all these arrests and what, do the people have the right knowledge of the danger that some of these places pose and what? You know, the directive of His Excellency is, as I said earlier, is timely. But what we are seeing, the response, how do we respond? Institutionally, individually, societies and what? How do we respond to such recommendations? I can tell you one of the things that has happened recently. You've seen what's happening in Katonga. Would you believe that this is an environmental issue?
Human activity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But isn't this something that's been happening under our watch? And some of the government people even benefiting. You won't be surprised at that. Now, that contestation between, you know, just like the Bible says, you're hot, you're lukewarm. You're not hot, you're not cold. That's how we have been about environmental issues, regardless of the fact that we have been a full institution present. But we have been lukewarm. And probably we are still lukewarm, not until the president has come out with a directive that I pray be put into some legal form. We need to shift from this lukewarm state for us to assist the society when it comes to environment. Other countries are doing it. You've talked about this whole thing of NEMA going to arrest people, but these people, how do they get possession, ownership of this land? Are we using the killer is the healer? Because people settle in these wetlands with the look of local leaders, district leaders, that are probably also environmental officers. They know. Are we focusing on the post-mortem or the pre-mortem?
And maybe just to let our viewer know that we shall be joined by the Executive Director of the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, Dr. Barirege Akankwasa, who will be joining us anytime as we discuss this. Now, Felix, you talked about knowledge, then you talked about, would we say, selective justice, corruption. One of my observation has been that I find it hard to believe that's lack of knowledge because, for example, when you look at people who occupy these wetlands, leave alone the usual that go in my uni and all that, these are land people because, for example, lorries, someone who has the capacity to have about 30, 40 lorries of marram dumped to cover, to encroach on our wetland. These are not, I would say, rumpens around, but they seem knowledgeable people. Aren't we appreciating our environment? Or haven't we seen enough nature speak?
Well, nature has spoken. But the problem is that these people who encroach the wetlands don't actually stay in the way. That's the irony. They encroach probably for other purposes like sailing, business, but not for residents. So they may not know those who actually cast, apart from those we're talking about in the villages who have been challenged by landslides and what, those are the innocent people, part of the people we don't know. The other aspect that is bringing encroachment is survival.
Yes.
We cannot also outrule the fact that people encroach for survival reasons. Do you know how much money people have made from Rueda? Rueda.
So much sand mining there.
Today now you're seeing what's happening. You go to all these other places, you have forest reserves, banks, you know, people are surviving. Now, some of these places have also been made, they have their work activities going on. For example, there's fishing. But because also we have a challenge of urban planning, we struggle with how to put our populations right, to organize and plan for them better. Now, you find that that's why we end up with things like slums, ghettos, and what, because of poor urban planning. So these directives will be helpful, Robert. For me, if you want my conclusive remark, they are timely, but the question is, what is going to change? Because have the enforcers changed? I don't know. Has we
have a whole unit, environment protection
which has
police
been there when all these things are happening. So I think we need a law away from some of these. But the fact that we have gotten the directives, it's a good starting point. Yeah.
Well, my only worry is how do we redo or rectify the mistakes, and how further do we protect what we have so that we don't have more encroachers onto our wetlands. Well, I earlier told you that we'll be joined by the Executive Director of NEMA, and that is Dr. Barirege Akankwasa. And allow me to take a short break. I believe when I return, he'll be joining me on set.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalukwago Complex Suta, UG's Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. In case you've just joined, welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabo, and like I earlier said, I'll be joined by the Executive Director of the National Environment Management Authority, Dr. Barirege Akankwasa. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Robert. A very good morning to our viewers and listeners.
Well, Doctor, to start with, our viewers need to know what is the mandate of NEMA, so that as we go by, they know if I have the right person and I'm not shooting misguided bullets.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. That's a very good question. I think NEMA's mandate is the most misunderstood mandate in Uganda, in my view, from my perspective. For the last 1 year I've been there. But NEMA was established by an act of parliament with the mandate to do 4 things. To monitor, to coordinate, to supervise, and to regulate all activities of the environment in Uganda. So NEMA is a principal agency for environment management in Uganda, and it does that work through supervision, coordination, monitoring, and regulation. What do we regulate? We regulate between environment management and development management. So we are
You regulate between
environment management and development management. We are the arbiters. We are the referees between conservation and development. So in other words, we are the link to sustainable development. Okay? Now, we regulate very many actors, including development actors and environment management actors. I want us to understand that, because quite often you find people asking NEMA questions of direct environment management because they don't know this. So we regulate development actors, you know, development projects like roads, like railways, like dams, like factories, buildings, name them. Then we also regulate environment management actors on how they are managing the environment segments that the law vests authority to them to manage. E.g., Uganda Wildlife Authority for wildlife management, National Forestry Authority for forestry management, Wetland Management Department, Ministry of Water and Environment for wetlands management, local governments and urban authorities for wetlands management, for waste management, for air quality management, for traffic flow, among others. Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and other developers for social safeguards of workers, for example, of social aspects of projects, resettlement, Ministry of Lands, you know. So for us, we are the arbiters between environment management and development. So that's the mandate of NEMA, to coordinate, monitor, supervise, and regulate all activities of environment in the country.
I was waiting for one. Where does it lie? Which is enforce compliance.
Yes, when you regulate, a regulator also enforces. So it is the mandate of the regulator to enforce. So we do enforcement as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was said. Well, I believe now we're at par with my viewer and, of course, the guest in studios. Now, to begin with, Doctor, we know that there is so much pressure on the environment.
Lots of it.
Population is increasing. Uganda is not expanding, and we've not conquered any territory around us. In addition to that, how possible is it then to have effective regulation? Because where we've reached, we kind of come to believe and think that maybe regulation, coordinating, supervision have become something that is so hard for NEMA to do.
Well, it is not hard for NEMA to do at all, because how do you know that environment is under pressure? You get to know through monitoring, isn't it? So the fact that you know means that NEMA's work is not difficult. It means you already know that there is a problem, so monitoring is taking place, isn't it? Now, the fact you know that people are challenged, lead agencies are challenged with the capacity to respond. Urban authorities are challenged with the capacity to manage waste. That's supervision. So supervision is going on. So the NEMA's job is not a very difficult one in my view. The problem is the capability and the capacity of actors. You see, when you have a headmaster, but the teachers do not have chalks, they do not have transport to school, they do not have capability to teach the children or the students. There is no way the headmaster will make miracles to make the students to pass. It's not possible. So the teacher in the class is very important. The lead agency who is in direct charge of environment is extremely important. You cannot have a lead agency that lacks capacity and you expect the supervisor now to be the one to achieve the mandate. It's not feasible. So we need the entire system working effectively.
With that example given, one would think, Doctor, how hard is it when we look at statistics, most of our wetland coverage? You see, the rate at which we are losing wetlands in Uganda. Forest, we must say, yes, there's been some achievement.
There is recovery.
Recovery in
Even
forest.
wetlands now, there is recovery.
That I need to get from you.
Yes.
But at least with forests, I agree there is recovery.
Yeah, we've moved
but with
from
the wetlands,
9%.
it becomes a bit...
Wetlands now, the percentage of intact wetlands is moving also towards the 13 actually percent, like forestry. Why? Restoration efforts, but also nature is reclaiming its own territories. That's why people are crying of water. So the wetlands are expanding. Areas which were previously wet are being recovered by nature and restoration activities. That is not to say we are doing well, not at all. The pressure on wetland is still enormous, most especially in urban areas where there is a lot of backfilling by people who want to, establish infrastructure in these areas. So the pressure is still there, but it is not insurmountable. Wetland loss is a direct consequence of urbanization, expanding urbanization and population growth. You have factories, but you also have slums taking over wetlands. That's population pressure, really. So we need to invest in resettlement of the urban poor into organized settlements we need to put a cap and stop the appetite of industrial growth in wetlands. That one already, government has already put a cap, as you know. So we want to stop that appetite of factories or investors having too much appetite for wetlands. That must stop. We have a presidential directive on that. We've suspended, as you know, since September 2021.
Yes.
Government put a cap on further approvals of developments in wetlands. We need to maintain that suspension so that we now start recovery of those wetlands which are still intact. Uganda still has quite a good number of intact wetlands. The problem is mainly here in urban areas, in urban areas, but also there is now poor agricultural methods, you know, rice growing without proper guidance or following procedures, artisanal, you know, subsistence or small-scale rice growing, which is not effectively regulated, especially in the eastern part of the country. This degrades wetlands. And so, yes, we still have good wetlands if we focused on them and secured them. I would say not all hope is lost.
Well, when you talk about if we secured them, one thing that comes to my mind, and even from public perception and some of the voices, there is a belief that things can happen. However, there is lack of will and selective justice. Over the weekend, I saw your team and environment police in around Buroba.
Yes, yes.
Handling people who had backfilled
Yes.
a wetland and they were paying and they were selling plots.
Yes.
The people I was with said, well, this seemingly is fair a step in the right direction, because there is a belief that you usually or easily target the poor when they encroach on these wetlands, but it's seemingly hard for you to target those with ability. For example, a person who can get 10 Sinotracs is not poor. But day by day we see big investments in wetlands, yet these yams, potato, sugarcane are easily removed. Is the law selective in nature? Aren't you so independent? What happens?
It's good you are calling it a belief. You know, there is a belief, but also there is reality. So if it is a belief, it would be a false belief, in my view. You've just given an example. Quite often, the poor actually cannot afford to build in wetlands.
Yes.
So all our enforcement efforts are actually not geared towards the poor. The majority of our efforts are geared towards the rich, because it is only the rich who can encroach wetlands. The poor can encroach wetlands also. We have Bugorob Slum here, you know it. We have Chinawataka. We have Katanga. All these were formerly wetlands.
And those, when you wake up and decide to have them go, to take a week, break. And
You see, it is not as just waking up and breaking.
Break and they are
No,
gone.
Rubiji, they had not settled. Rubiji, they had not settled. So it was preemptive. We didn't want them to settle, because when they settle, it becomes a problem now. It becomes an issue of human rights. It becomes an issue of resettlement by government. Which government is responsible for the people also. So the best way is to prevent it from happening. And that's what we did in Rubiji. That's what you prevent the occupation of the wetland. Now, most of our enforcement is geared towards the rich, actually, because they are the ones in wetlands. However, we have a challenge. We have a challenge of capacity. We have a challenge of capacity. You see, Uganda has about 45 million people. You know the number of districts we have. So the number of staff at NEMA cannot police, let alone even the whole Uganda police force, cannot police every inch of land in Uganda. And that's where I want Ugandans to understand. We should not rely on the power of policing to do our own behavior change. because that is going to take our country into a wrong direction. We cannot be a police state. You cannot station armed people in every inch of wetland in Uganda. That's not sustainable. Even if you got the entire army and the entire police, they would still not secure every inch of land in Uganda. So what is important is to educate Ugandans so that Ugandans know the value of protecting the wetlands, the dangers of not doing so, so that the police themselves will only come in to deal with the wrong elements. I don't want us to believe that all Ugandans are rebellious, they are against the law, they are not law-abiding. No, that would be wrong. The enforcement should target on the wrong elements in society. The majority of Ugandans should actually be helping government, and they do. We receive so many alerts on Twitter, on Facebook, on phone calls, and we thank Ugandans for being alert. Sometimes Ugandans actually themselves stop the encroachment. That's the spirit we want to promote instead of waiting for policing. No, behavior change cannot happen with the policing alone. We are building our capacity at NEMA. We are establishing a dedicated environment protection force, which will be supported by police, the army, and our in-house people, enforcement officers and men at NEMA. But still, that should be geared towards the rogue elements in society. The majority of Ugandans should do self-policing. If you see a wetland being encroached, do not accept. Ministry of Lands do not issue that land title. KCCA or local government or urban authority do not approve that building. Since NEMA has stopped from 2021 further issuance of permits, it would mean that everyone who builds now would be building illegally. So there are no more excuses of NEMA permits. NEMA permits, no. Those no longer exist. Yeah.
Well, our viewers, you can join the discussion this morning by simply going on the number on your screen. Send us a WhatsApp message or a text message, and I'll be reading it out to the Executive Director of NEMA, whom I'm having in studios, and he will be responding to your questions or your concern. Now, recently, when we are looking at these extreme weather conditions, His Excellency came up with directives. And I'm very sure these came to, among others, the National Environment Management Authority, where he said there should be no building or garden 50 meters from river banks, 200 meters from the lake shores, and no building on hills with a gradient greater than 30 degrees. Forests hold soil and prevent landslides. The root of trees hold the soils. And to continue, and he said, it is therefore wrong to intervene with the delicate work of God and nature. Now, ED, there's so much damage that has been done.
Yes.
Here the president is looking at two approaches. There should not be, but already they are. So I want us to look at preventing and, if possible, redoing, allowing nature to reclaim.
Restoring, yes.
Yes, restoration.
Yes.
How do we go about this?
One, the president has been very consistent, if you know. Right way back, the president was very clear on the need for people to leave wetlands and forests. There are so many directives on commanding people to leave wetlands and forests, encroachers. And there are directives to all local governments, the RDCs, the DSOs, the DPCs. They have all been put on notice. In one of the directives, the president put RDCs, CAOs, environment officers at the district level on notice that anybody who will fail to stop encroachment, further encroachment of wetlands, they will lose their jobs. For us at NEMA, we welcome these directives, and we shall do all in our means to support the lead agencies responsible for implementation, to ensure that these directives are implemented, and those which are implemented by us also, to ensure that NEMA implements them. One of them, I can tell you, was suspension of further issuance of environment and social impact assessment permits and certificates in wetlands.
Which was a problem. Because the
it was a
layman could
problem.
not understand that.
Yeah, that was important because every time we would go to enforce, people would say, but we have permits. So when you go to court, government would lose cases. So that's very, very important to start with, stop further licensing of developments in wetlands. That is very, very important. It's the beginning point. Because you can't enforce against somebody who already has a license from you. Because government is one body. Doesn't matter whether it's KCCA or NEMA or Ministry of Lands, we all constitute part of government of Uganda. We are one body. So stopping further licensing helps us when we get you to succeed in prosecuting you. So that was very important. We've fully implemented that and we continue to implement it. Now what we need is to increase capacity to fish out and prosecute the wrong elements. Now that there is no more regularizing of encroachment,
yes,
we should now deal with the illegal ones. Sand mining, for example. We suspended the sand mining. Most of the permits in sand mining areas have expired, apart from about one which is about to expire, meaning that we should not be having sand mining. But there is illegal sand mining. Some people even do sand mining at night. So we need the capacity in terms of enforcement personnel to ensure that we deal decisively with the wrong elements now. Yeah. But we also need the district local governments. The RDCs are actually the district security committee chairpersons. They have enforcement at their disposal. The entire police, the entire UPDF, the entire prison service in any district is under the command of the RDC. So it is not proper for districts and urban cities, you know, urban authorities to continue to watch on as the environment is being degraded with only the finger pointing to NEMA. That's totally wrong. I want to appeal to local governments and urban authorities that the law, the National Environment Act, empowers all lead agencies, including districts and urban authorities. They have power to manage, to regulate, and to enforce the law on environment. Because the environment is not a centralized service. Environment management is a decentralized service. So until districts and urban authorities are in full charge, we are going to continue to have a problem. Ordinarily, for example, wetlands in Kampala, we should have the Directorate of Environment of KCCA in charge of these wetlands, protecting them. Quite often people think NEMA is the one supposed to protect them. We come in to protect them because of the gap.
Yes.
But if the urban authorities and local government had the capacity to be fully in charge of their affairs, NEMA would be only looking for reports and coming in to only support them. But what we are increasingly seeing now, you see districts and urban authorities also writing to NEMA to say, come and handle encroachment in such a Njojo. Now you ask yourself, in Chenjojo there is a DPC, there is an RDC, there is an enforcement outfit, there is a government there. So they should not wait for the central government, they should enforce, you know. If we have enforcement across the country, if each local government is enforcing, I can tell you the pressure will mount and the encroachers will disappear. But if you wait for one
that was
institution,
then also a gap or an oversight in the law? Because, for example, I've been in Kasese when they have challenges, but they'll tell you our very leaders, political influence, interference, are even promoting this.
well, if a leader is influencing something against the law,
Why people should not vacate,
no,
that
that leader should be arrested, period. If there is a leader, whether national or at local government level, who is telling people to commit an offense, that leader should be arrested by police. The RDCs, as heads of security, have power to cause arrest of such leaders. That's why the RDCs and the cows are not local government appointed people, so that they have that leverage of being independent, not to be engaged in local politics, so that they can enforce the law. Yeah. So
Doctor, allow me go quick through some of the messages here.
Sure.
Good morning, thanks for the show. I'm Atuwaru Alex from Makere. What is NEMA going to do to the industries which are already established in the wetlands? He wants to know what you're going to do for those established. Hello UBC, the ED can't say they stop industrial developments in wetland, but as we speak, even now, when you go to Namamve Industrial Park, even now there is clearing of space for new industries, which stop, okay, to Ugandans. Then I move on. I'm Waduru Moses, tuned in from Mbale City. Why does NEMA protect the rich from environmental encroachment? Now government is targeting the poor rice and mayuni growers. Uganda Wildlife Authority is targeting people who are going for baboons in forests, leaving the rich construct in wetlands. Please make NEMA laws impartial. And for now, finally, good morning, I'm Manfred from Mbale. Most of industrial parks are in wetlands. It is NEMA recommendation. Secondly, which plan does NEMA have on, that is crevice which is destroying our soils, on caveras which are destroying our soils? Let's go with those.
yes, that's a very good question. Industrial parks. It's true most of the industrial parks are actually in wetlands. Apart from the industrial parks established after 2021, when government effectively put a ban on further industrialization of wetlands. So the previous industrial parks, including Namamve, including Mbale, and several others, are actually in wetlands. So that is true. Government then licensed and approved the establishment of industrial parks to support industrialization, and this was done in a wetland, which in my view was a strategic mistake, which government has realized and since changed the direction. So in Uganda we say bwofirwa tosula ku mararo. If there was a strategic mistake made then, it doesn't mean that the country should continue on that strategic mistake. The mistake was made, but you must also know that the pressure then was industrialization. So in environment management is a matter of trade-off. That's why we have NEMA actually. To be an arbiter. You are not on one side, you are in the middle. Here is development, here is environment, there is pressure, so there must be somebody to regulate. So that time, there was a trade-off. Government needed investors. There was wetlands which were seen as the available land then, and a strategic mistake was made, and the industries were put in wetlands. These were put by government, they have licenses, so they are not illegal industries. And so government can only come up with a program to identify alternative land to give to these investors so that they relocate. And this is happening slowly. Uganda Investment Authority is identifying other industrial parks now across the country. Arua, there is one now. Soroti, there is one. Chisoro, there is one. These are now not in wetlands. So government will encourage and identify alternative land, alternative industrial parks which are not in wetlands, and then move these factories there. That's
a
the
quick
direction.
one in the interest of time, the Kavera.
The Kavera above, below 30 microns is legal in Uganda. The Kavera below 30 microns is still legal, or rather illegal. The Kavera above 30 microns is not illegal. The law allows it. However, the person who produces Kavera or plastic bottle must label it and must buy it back from the environment through a buyback process. So we are working with Uganda Manufacturers Association to establish an extended producer responsibility. So that whoever manufactures a plastic, especially single-use plastics like Kavera and plastic water bottles, you put in a mechanism to collect it back from environment through a payback system. You've seen in a bottling now, it's already happening. You collect the used bottle and you are paid. these used bottles are used to recycle. So government is coming up with a strategy to deal with the plastic pollution, and actually the theme for this year's World Environmental Day, which shall be commemorated at Kororo on 5th June, is beating plastic pollution. So government is going to promote production of alternatives to Kavera, promoting recycling and reusing and stopping further importation of virgin materials for production of single-use plastics. That's our direction as a country. But we also have anti-litter campaign that is going on. If you throw that Kavera from your car, or we're walking on the street, or from the market, or from a building, you get arrested.
Don't you think you failed there, ED?
We are moving.
No. There was so much pomp. I hosted you here.
Oh,
you
yes.
assured Ugandans.
Yes.
But nothing has been done since
Not
then.
at all.
It's now a month plus.
You
when
are not
assured
informed.
us on TV here.
You are not informed. Effective 1st May, we started. And if you go to the bus park now,
Okay.
or a taxi park, and you find a bus which does not have a waste receptacle, you come, I give you money.
I'm eating that one.
Yeah.
Well, your final remark.
So I want to thank Ugandans, especially those who heed to our call for anti-litter campaign, especially the public transporters. I want to thank you, the Association of Public Transporters. You were very keen, you came, we discussed, we agreed, and you implemented, and we shall support you, we shall continue to support you, so that we have a litter-free Uganda. To those who are not yet complying, please be aware that our enforcement teams are still alive, they are still on the ground. If you are caught littering, the fine still stands, the jail sentence still stands. It's a criminal offense. Let's keep it clean, let's keep our Uganda free from litter, let's beat plastic pollution, let's promote sustainable use of our environment to secure our lives.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for your time. Thank you so much, our viewers. The messages are so many, I couldn't read them due to time, but many of them earlier in the discussion had been captured, their answers. But I hope to have Doctor more often. I hope when I call you respond. Well, have a lovely day. See you in the next hour, by the way, for God and my country.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwago Complex Suta, UG's Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.